It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back. It's time we give back. Sow a seed and
Welcome back to another episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform, where we sit and talk to just general conversation with our superheroes. Today we have a very special guest sitting here with us to talk about his superpowers and what he's done for the community. Sitting to my left, Mr. Hosea Givan. Thank you to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Never thought I'd be sitting here today, but here I am.
Well, we're glad you're here to sit with us.
Thank you.
So we want to talk about everything, but we don't have a ton of time, and we know you've got a whole lifetime of experience. Where I want to start, we are here in New York, but I know you're not originally from New York. Talk about where you started at really briefly.
I was born in Bessemer, Alabama, at a very young age, the age of 4. My whole family left Alabama and we came to Gary, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I grew up, in Gary, Indiana. And Gary, Indiana is where I learned all that I know about getting involved.
When you say getting involved, you're speaking of?
Well, when I was a youngster, say 9, 10 years old, there was a guy in our neighborhood who took it upon himself to organize a club. I think the name of our club was the Comets.
Okay.
And the Comets did everything. We played football, we played baseball. I can still remember the Comets team. I can remember all of those guys. They're all gone on now, but Duke Bolden and Tukey Allen, they worked with us for us to have something to do. And we played softball, we ran track, we played football, and in the wintertime, we built a mound around a vacant lot and had the city to come in and put some water in it, and we had a hockey rink.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the kind of ingenuity. You don't see kids do things like that these days. That's pretty sharp.
That was so nice. I still remember that.
Wow. Did the participation with the guys in the community, did that lead to any sort of like high school participation, anything like that, in terms of your sports?
I played basketball in high school, played football, started on the team. We had a decent high school football team. Our basketball team was number 2 in the state in the year 1955. On the team was Dick Barnett.
Wow.
And Ison was our big star at that time. Dick Barnett was not. He was the star, one of the stars, but our main guy was Jake Ison, who was Mr. Basketball for Indiana in 1955.
Okay.
So, yeah, I played and got involved with sports, and that's how my athletic career started.
Okay.
Always doing something sports-wise.
Okay, and you know we touched on it a bit. You talked about your being involved, and that's referring to your volunteerism and giving back to the community. How did the time you spent with those gentlemen that took the time with you all, how did you parlay that over into what you started doing? And tell me about
when I came to, I grew up in Indiana, but I came to New York in I don't know, when did I come to New York? In 1960.
Okay.
And I had to get I was involved in group activities with my children. They played sports because we always had something to do. And since we had something to do and had something to keep us involved, we got involved with a group from Harlem called the East Harlem Biddies, and each week I would take my children, and at that time the director of the East Harlem Biddies was Buddy Fletcher. He had an impact on me because he had these teams of little kids playing basketball, organized basketball. Howie Evans wrote for the Amsterdam News at the time, and he would always write about the East Harlem Biddies in the Amsterdam News sports section. He never left us out.
Okay.
So, you know, that's how I got knowledge of organized children's activity. How did it get how did I get it out to Hollis, Queens? Going back and forth to Harlem every weekend was time consuming.
Right, right.
And I have to get up, and I would grab a bunch of children and my own, and we would go over to Harlem and play. I said, well, why don't we do something like this in Hollis? And another buddy of mine and myself, we worked for IBM at the time, we decided to try to get an organization of an organized program out here in Hollis, Queens.
Right. Okay.
And that's what we did.
Now, how was that? Was it a tough start?
It was a piece of cake.
Really?
Yeah. IBM was anxious to help us, and they did. It didn't take much to sponsor a league. I mean, I don't know how much, but it was enough. We had each team had a uniform, different color from somebody else's uniform.
Okay.
And the uniform consisted of shirts, shorts, a jock, and socks, and a bag to carry the stuff in.
Wow.
And on Saturdays in Hollis, every Saturday, those kids look forward to being out there showing off their skills in basketball. And it was an organized league, 12 players on the team, assistant coach. Every player got to play each game. We had a rule that each player had to play at least one quarter. So the kids who were not as proficient as others,
right,
they got a chance to play.
That's good. That's good.
And we tried not to have any of the young kids get embarrassed.
Okay.
So each team would play their weaker players at the same time.
Understood.
So it was something to do.
What about I mean, with all those children out there, you know, ready to play, what about the volunteers, the adults? How did they respond?
It was an all-volunteer act. When we first started out, we didn't know how big it would be. We took flyers and took them to the junior high schools, but we didn't know how it would turn out. And on the first Saturday, I remember how it started. The first Saturday that it started, all these kids out here, and we trying to organize them and do them. Parents saw what we needed, and they just started helping out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We got coaches. Every team had a coach and an assistant coach, an older kid who wanted to help out. And it worked out fine. Nobody got paid for anything.
So that's so it's so opposite of what I understand now in terms of volunteerism.
Yeah.
To have the children, they don't even participate as much anymore, even though it doesn't cost them anything but their time. And adults haven't really gotten involved much. Can you think what a difference is between the times then and now?
We try not to have kids getting embarrassed. They look forward to coming out and playing and doing the best they can. And it was, and the teams were balanced. We put together a computer program that would take the first kid, the strongest kid. We rated them on their skills, how well they shot, how well they passed, and how well they played the game. Mm-hmm. And the factor of their height in it too. So those were the 4 or 5 factors that we used to rate the players.
Okay.
And the number 1 player down to the 144th player was rated.
Wow.
And the first player went on the first team, the second player on the second team, the third player on the third team.
I got you.
And you wouldn't get back to the first team with a player until we had wrapped it back around.
Understood. That's a nice way to balance it out. Okay.
Yeah. And it was balanced.
Okay.
The teams were balanced. No team really ran away with the league. You had some players who were really outstanding, but for the most part, everybody kind of like played together.
Oh, that's excellent. And
some of the players in the NBA, one player in particular played in our league. It was Mark Jackson.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Boo Harvey, I don't know if you remember him.
I know Boo Harvey. I actually played against Boo Harvey once before.
Oh, yeah. I know
in the tournament.
I know he showed out on
He tried. He tried. I played against him, and David Edwards was the other guy.
Okay.
Yeah, David Edwards. I played against both of them.
Wow.
Yeah. I surprisingly had a great game though, that time.
The Edwards family was big in Queens at the time, but I don't think any of their kids came through our league.
Okay. Okay.
But we did it on Saturday, and eventually we got to have a girls program associated with it too. The girls wanted to be involved, and we had cheerleaders, and every team had a group of girls who was cheering for them, and they had uniforms and little stars on them. And
so I'm listening to this, and for me that's like a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's like a fantasy because I see tournaments around the city, whether it's the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, wherever, it doesn't matter. And it's pretty much, a bunch of young boys, they're there for their T-shirts and their sneakers, they play, they go home. You don't see the participation of the young ladies, unless it's young ladies in a tournament, but cheerleaders and the parents out there cheering them on. What happened to that stuff?
I have no idea what happened to it, but back in the day, that was a big thing for our neighborhood. Wow. Kids look forward to the Hollis Biddies. I was standing in line once going to a high school basketball game, and one of the kids was saying, he said, can't wait till tomorrow. Got to get out there and show out for the Hollis Biddies.
Okay.
And I was so impressed that that kind of impression was in our children because of how we had set it up.
That kind of response is definitely what we look for. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll pick up our conversation from there.
Fine with me.
Hi, I'm your host, Larry V. Starke Jr. Tune in to Ignite, Empower, Transform every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on BronxNet.
Get back, let's get back.
Welcome back. Hosea, in the midst of our conversation, you mentioned a gentleman that started the Hollis Biddies with you. What was his name again?
His name was Cecil Hollar.
Cecil Hollar.
Cecil Hollar and I both worked for IBM.
Okay.
And when we decided to start this league, I couldn't think of anybody better to help do that than Cecil.
Okay.
Because Cecil had a way with young people, and he had a passion and a seriousness about getting things done.
So, we went ahead and we decided that we were going to call Cecil and have him join us on this program. Cecil, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Cecil, how you doing, man? Wow.
Fine, Jose. How are you? First and foremost, I'd like to wish my very, very good friend happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, Cecil. I celebrated my 80th.
Wow.
On the 13th of October, so.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Cecil,
and
never would have thought.
Go ahead, Jose.
Never would have thought that 45 years ago we would be talking about the Hollis Biddies as we started it and how it has impacted so many young people's lives. How about that?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If I look back at my life and I review my life, it's one of the things I'm most proudest of is the Hollis Biddies and everything that's come out of it. And I'm so proud of Joey for taking up the mantle and continuing the legacy of community work.
My son Hosea is who he's talking about, Joey. Joey came through the league with some of the other young people who I meet on the street sometimes years. I mean, it's amazing how these young people will call me. They have children of their own today, you know,
Right.
grown,
Yes.
young kids.
Yes.
Right.
And they've told me how much the Hollis Biddies meant to them and how they really look forward to coming out on Saturday mornings and being a part of that program.
Well, see, now knowing your age and knowing that Cecil is right there with you, I can't say Hosea. I have to call you Mr. Hosea and Mr. Cecil. It's disrespect. I have to do it. So you have to understand, children didn't have that kind of influence and haven't had it all the time. So here you are, two men of color even, stepping up and saying, we have our own, but we're going to come to you and help you out as well. Kids don't get that. What made you all really, Mr. Cecil, let me ask you, what made you really want to step in to those shoes and take those children under your wing?
Well, you know, we kind of came up in a different era. Civil rights was at the forefront of everything. And just to have an opportunity to work for IBM in 1967 was kind of unbelievable, even now to me, that I was given that opportunity. So I always had a sense of how blessed I was. And I've always had people that took an interest in not only my life, but my career. So I'm a product of, you know, people caring. And so it was quite natural for me to try to give back. And I'm dedicated to that for the rest of my life. As long as I have breath, I will give back.
Awesome. Awesome.
Cecil had the passion that we needed to make that league a success. We would have to put tape on the court to make it suitable for the young people. And Cecil would get up every Saturday morning and get out there and tape those
Like
lanes.
the out of bound lines
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
Yeah.
And made
Yeah,
it
it was-
adaptable for the young people.
Wow. And it's
It was
a blessing that
truly a labor of love. We were both passionate. Yeah, Jose, you're much too kind with your words. You were just as passionate, and your leadership and just, you know, just your attitude about being professional in what we did as well. Not only did we do it, but we were professional. We showed, I think, the kids how important it was to be on time and to be there all the time. I don't think we ever missed a day.
Not
I don't
a
think
day.
we ever missed a Saturday.
I remember.
You know, I don't remember ever missing a Saturday.
We never missed a Saturday. I remember one time though, I was late getting to one of our meetings, and Cecil told me, he said, "I bet if it was IBM, you wouldn't have been late."
Wow.
And guess what? I haven't been late since.
Wow.
I have not been late. Being late is not a part of me. And it was because of what Cecil said at that time that instilled in me the importance of being someplace. If you say you're going to be someplace, be there.
And I can appreciate the fact that you all held each other accountable.
Yeah.
That's another thing we don't see as much
Absolutely.
of. Holding each other accountable without thinking you're being insulting or degrading. That's a big part of what we've lost.
It was wonderful.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, we did hold each other accountable. And I am just so grateful that I was a part of that. And I had the leadership ability of Cecil to come along and all those men who were the coaches of all those teams.
Good.
And the women.
Gotcha.
Who were just as influential with the women, the young girls in the league.
Okay.
It was a happening.
Well, Mr. Hosea, Mr. Cecil, I tell you, this has been a treat for me. One of my passions is listening to the older gentlemen talk about how things were, because I've always been one that watched my father and my grandfather and watched them go about, my uncles, and I've always taken from what they brought to the table and incorporated it in my life. So I want to thank you all for giving to those young men. Some I know a little older than me, some are probably around my age still, I want to thank you all. At this moment, Mr. Cecil, we're going to have to cut you short. You say your goodbyes to your good buddy here, and I'm sure at some point we'll get back to you.
Well, goodbye to both of you. I love you both, and to my great friend of over 50 years, Jose. It's 1970. It was 1967 when we met. Right. Over 50 years. My good friend, you'll always be precious to me, and I'll always be in memory of you.
Thank you, Cecil.
So we've gotten a taste of what your relationship was like with one of your co-founders and coaches. What about the players? You talked about the impact he had on. You talked about players. You know, he said he still hears from you. Hear from him every now and then. So there's a gentleman who he said he was pretty good back then. He said you can tell us about it. He decided he wanted to call in. Does the name Reggie ring a bell?
Reggie Pegues?
I think that's him. Caller, you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me clearly?
Is this Reggie?
Yes,
How are you? How are you? What you been doing?
I am wonderful, Dad. I'm doing so well. First of all, let me thank Joey Jr. for allowing me to be on this platform and to just pay homage to someone who's been so instrumental in my development, someone who showed me that Hollis, being a resident of Hollis, was so much larger, someone who gave me a sense of community, someone who showed me my personal value and my responsibility to contribute to the community. So I just want to pay honor to you on your birthday and to let you know just how impactful you have always been, and the things that I've learned from you, Cecil Hollar, Mr. Yearwood, all those, Joyce Myers, all those that were connected to the Hollis Biddies, the things that I've learned from the age of 11 and 12 years old that I've carried through my whole life, and I instilled into my own children.
Wow.
So I just wanted to thank you.
Wow.
For all the things that you've done. For me personally, I'm doing great right now. I have several businesses that I'm operating now, and it was due to the fact of men like you. There's an old adage that says, in order to be a man, you have to see a real man. And you exposed me to real men who contributed to the community, those who showed us that we were much more than what our surroundings were, that we can aspire and dream to be greater than ourselves. And more importantly, the more that we poured in, the more people it obligated God to bring our personal desires, dreams, hopes to fruition for our personal selves. So I just wanted to thank you, sir, for allowing me to be on this platform and to pay homage to such a great man. Not only did you impact my life, you also impacted my younger sister's life, because she was actually a cheerleader in the Hollis Biddies. And I don't know if you remember, but there was a period where we had a situation in our family where our house had burned down. And I remember you taking me into your home to make it easy for me to be able to get back and forth to school, because we had to move to Long Island. So our relationship and the relationship that I have with your family far extended just the Hollis Biddies. Those Saturday mornings were the highlight of my week. You know, I had to make sure I did everything I had to do well in school, because you and the others of your team emphasized us to do well in school, to be respectful in our homes, to love our community. So those Saturday mornings were the highlight of my week. And like I said, the lessons that I learned there, not only just exercising my gifts and talents, but the other essential things that we were taught. Dealing with the coaches, being exposed to successful black men and women. Those things have carried me from then to now, and I can proudly say that I was a member of the Hollis Biddies. I am an upstanding citizen and contributor to this society through my community work, through my businesses, and I attributed much, much, much to you, Miss Givan, as I said, Miss Myers, Mr. Yearwood, Mr. Kenny, all those people that you exposed us to, taking us down to Wall Street so we can see the Federal Reserve and go to major corporations like IBM and different things like that, taking us to Shea Stadium, things like that I will never forget, and I've passed along and have shared with my children the importance of giving back. And that's the foundation of who I am what I am and what I continue to be. And it's because of great men such as yourself and the others that you've exposed me to through the Hollis Biddies that I give you gratitude. And I just salute you, sir, for everything that you've been. But most importantly, I thank God for the fact that he has saw fit to allow you to live 80 some odd years in this world, and you're still thriving, you're still working in the vineyard, and you're still contributing.
Reggie, thank you. I didn't consider it anything but something to do when I was doing it. I sought nothing from it other than the gratitude that the young people showed during the time. And I don't know what, I've gotten my flowers from people like yourself and from Jeff Marino and Ike Parker when he came back. He brought his family back to Hollis just to be honored by the Hollis Biddies.
Wow.
Wow.
And you know, that was just special. Everybody don't get that. And I'm one of those who did, and I'm so grateful. I spoke to Cecil a few minutes ago, and he was just as passionate about the Biddies as he was back in the day.
Yes. I mean, I didn't mention Cecil Hollar, but Cecil Hollar was another person that had a tremendous impact on me.
Yeah.
You know, so I am just so grateful that God saw fit to allow me to be a part of such an experience. I mean, the seeds that you guys, all of you, have planted have far surpassed any thing that you possibly could have imagined at the time. If you look around, for those of us who have been exposed to that experience, look at how successful the majority of us have been, are currently in life.
Yes.
And we got those things through what was instilled in us through that time being a part of the Hollis Biddies. And again, I cannot pay you enough homage. There's not enough time on this broadcast, or there's not enough platitudes that I can give.
Hey, Reggie.
Yeah.
Reggie. As my name is Larry, by the way. I don't know if I even introduced myself because I've been having such joy listening to these you two men speak. In terms of Mr. Hosea, it's been an honor for me to listen in. Unfortunately, and I say that not in such a negative, but unfortunate in terms of time, we're gonna have to cut you a little short. So we can move forward with the show, but I really appreciate you taking the time, and more than anything, you sound like a brother around my age, so I can appreciate the fact that you appreciate this gentleman and all the other gentlemen that have poured into your life, and that you're giving back to those in your community the same way it was given to you, and much success on everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me on your platform.
Thank you.
All right,
Reggie,
take care.
Thank you for calling in. I am so touched by your comments.
Talk to you soon, Dad.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace.
Wow, Mr. Hosea, that's 2 in a row. I mean, it didn't slow down from the first to the second. The passion was just there. I personally get choked up when I hear things like that because I think about the men that took time with me. I could have gone down the wrong road. So I thank you for what you did to these men I've never met, but I feel like I know them now. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much for having me on. And
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking me back to something that was such a very valuable part of my life.
I'm glad I could be part of this memory. I want to thank you all for joining us with this special edition of Ignite, Empower, Transform. When you get an opportunity, sit down, talk to those who have seen life before you, many years before you. There's a lot of things you can learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm your host, Larry V. Starke Jr.
I'm your host, Rachel Cheeks Givan.
I'm your host, Hosea James Givan II.
I'm your host, Rebecca Givan.
Tune in to
Ignite,
Empowered
Transform
every Tuesday night
at 8
p.m.
on BronxNet.
Give back.